Oh, yeah, there we go.
Have a good one.
I did not get time to do much research before this, so
Shame on you.
I know. I was able to pull up a quick.
Oh, thankfully I know the subject reasonably well.
Yeah. I knew a couple, but I wanted to be able to reference them correctly. Like I remembered the bottle imp, but
Oh,
for
yes.
some reason I thought it was Poe rather than Robert Louis
Louis
Stevenson.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
Yes, where if memory serves, I haven't actually read, but if memory serves, the imp grants you your wishes, but if you die with the bottles in your possession, you go to hell, right?
Yeah.
Though I could have told you that was Stevenson.
Yeah.
Gene, are we good?
For Facebook, you are.
Okay. And YouTube?
I can put, yeah, YouTube's pretty good too. You want me to put you on now?
Yeah, go ahead and put us on.
Okay, buddy, you're live.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. I'm your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist, paranormal investigator, and of course, the Paranormal Encyclopedia.
I'm author Brian McKinley, a vampire author and the godfather of vampire thrillers.
And hopefully, at some point, Baron Voltage will be joining us as well.
Yes,
He
always fun.
is en route to a convention as we speak, so unfortunately, he may not be able to call in right away, but he is going to make the effort.
But if somebody else wants to call in, that's also cool.
Yes, numbers on the bottom of your screen, 609-807-2492, 609-807-2492. So this time, instead of forgetting, let's do the sponsors.
Yes.
Although I think we should split them up.
I agree.
We can do the first, we'll do Audible now, and we can do Nord at the end.
Okay. Or
Since-
at the midway point when we do the number.
True.
Like that.
I just ignored at the end just because of the whole. We're gonna do the links in the bottom anyway, so
Oh, that's true.
they're not gonna. It's more fresh in their mind, hopefully. So okay, at any rate, folks, if you want to help out the show, you can go to audibletrial.com. That's audibletrial.com/paranormal PARANORMAL, the letter E. Audibletrial.com, the paranormal E /paranormal E is the address. Sign up for a 1 month free trial. You get a free audiobook. You get a free month's membership. You can cancel at any time. If you do in fact cancel, you still get to keep your audiobook.
Yep.
And it's like $15 a month, I think, to keep a membership going if you decide you want to do so. Actually, Gene, are you sure we're on Facebook? Because I'm not seeing it on the paranormal page. Oh, that's why. It's time. Dang it, I put it on my timeline instead of the paranormal page.
Well, there we go.
You're under Kevin, Kevin Mears.
Yeah, that would be the problem. Although, why is it not? Oh, well. It works. People can listen. And I'd
All
have
right. All your friends are being told that you're live now.
So if you're listening and wondering where we are, it's on the Kevin Mears page. It's at, no, we need to fix this because there's going to be other people that aren't necessarily on my friends list that might want to listen in.
Okay.
Everything down. That's the problem. If you don't do it right the first time, they want to shut it all off.
And start over. You can't even just shut off the Facebook? Dang it. Or can't you just log in and do the...
Share it. Can we share it?
Yeah, share it. Share it. That'll work. Okay.
At least it'll connect both.
I can't believe I did something so boneheaded. So, at any rate, audibletrial.com/paranormally. The other thing that we just started yesterday, folks, I absolutely loathe to do this kind of thing. I hate even doing the Patreon, but we are trying to raise money to keep the show afloat. As some of you may know, we did last night. I started a new series, as yet untitled series, with fellow YouTuber and my good friend Lupus Creepus. We're doing reviews of horror movies, books, TV shows, and everything. The first review is supposed to be The Conjuring. Last night was a failure. My laptop died on me. We are definitely in a situation where we could use some support. So we've started a new Kickstarter, which is at Paranormal Encyclopedia on I believe it's in fact just Kickstarter slash Paranormal Encyclopedia. So,
Makes sense.
let me double check that for everybody.
Yeah.
If you could support us there, it's a huge help. Let me look it up.
Please.
So, Kickstarter.com/projects /14547191104/paranormal-encyclopedia. Just go to Kickstarter.com and look up Paranormal Encyclopedia.
Yeah.
It'll be in the description as well. There's a bunch of tiers. You can get a T-shirt. You can get, if you want to spend enough money, we'll come out to your convention. You can come on the show, be a guest for a night, or you could suggest a guest depending on how much you want to put in. There's also the ticker at the bottom of the screen. I was just talking with Ruben, who was saying that we could put people on there too. We're going to get a website in the near future. If you can support us even a buck or two, it's an enormous help. Because again, one person $1 isn't much. A whole bunch of people send $1, it adds up.
Yeah. I'd be willing to add a like autographed copies of my books.
Okay, we'll talk about that
as a tier. You can add that.
Thank you. We'll talk about that, and we'll add where we want to put it in terms of the financial donation, and we'll put it on there. We have a ton of projects in the works right now. The good news is one of the big things I had said on the Kickstarter is I clearly need a laptop. It looks like I've got a line on one of those for free that I should be getting early next week, which means the reviews with Lupus will continue in the very near future, depending on mutual availability, basically. And I'll have information up once we get a date settled. Hopefully next week or the week after. It'll be Wednesday nights because that's when he's mostly available.
Yeah.
So aside from that, and like I said, we're gonna do our last sponsor at the end just to break things up instead of me talking at the audience about who's sponsoring the show all at once. But I do want to at the end just to break things up instead of. And why did I just come in through the audio? Okay.
Oh.
So let's. Oh, there's the thing we should announce now, since we know, and this is super exciting.
Yes.
Our guest for next week.
Yeah.
So tonight,
finally got some prestige.
as we've been promising, we are going to be talking about the joys of fly fishing.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm kidding. We're going to be talking about deals with the devil. Next week, my geek fanboy is going off the charts. We're going to have Dacre Stoker on, the great grandnephew of the man himself, Bram Stoker, author of Dracula.
He's going to talk to us about Stoker, about Dracula, about his travels.
We'll talk to him about his book, Dracula the Undead.
Yes.
And he's got a documentary, Dracula meets Stoker, that he's done, and he's contributed to a travel guide too, so we can talk to him about that as well.
Yeah, he's got a few projects. I might even be talking to him about being part of mine.
Fantastic.
So that would be awesome.
But I've read Dracula the Undead. I've seen some interviews and things with him. He seems like a really nice guy. This should be absolutely fascinating.
I've been talking with him. He's been nothing but gracious and very open.
He willingly is coming on our little show, so he's great in my book. I'll say that right now.
He's our first kind of like legitimate celebrity.
I'll also say, on a related note of guests, sometime next week, she and I are going to figure out details over email, but Virgo Triad, who was on last week, has very kindly invited me to come on her show to talk about how evil scammers are, and probably we'll get into a little bit of the paranormal scams that are out there.
Ooh, fun stuff.
And I'm really excited about that. Virgo was a great guest for us, so I'm very honored that she invited me to come on.
Speaking of which, show. I have here a small piece of the True Cross that I'm willing to part with for like just a couple $100. Talk to me after the show.
Do you have one of the foreskins of the Lord, though?
No, I have. It's on order.
Because paranormal, the religious scams over history is another great topic to do a different night.
Yeah, the piece of the True Cross has been a
There's
popular
enough pieces
one
of the True Cross out there to create a forest of True Crosses.
Pretty much, yeah.
And there's actually, so Jesus being a Jew, raised Jewish, would have been circumcised. There's not one, but 2 foreskins for him out circulating the world.
Oh, only 2. So that raises the hope that one of them is genuine somehow.
Plenty of blood, a couple of things.
Like they were going to keep that,
4 separate spears are supposed to be the spear that pierced the side of
course,
Christ.
yeah. Spear of London. That's easy because you could find so many Roman spears.
No, there's 4 ones that everybody argues over. This is the real one. No, this is the real one.
Yeah, because they're from the right time period. And,
The right design, right time period.
yeah.
One of which indeed was in fact in Austria and was captured by the Nazis for a while.
Yep. See,
but-
they always should have done that. Should have been the latest Indiana Jones movie.
They did a video game based on it.
They did. They should have just adapted that as a movie because it would have been better than that Crystal Skull stuff.
Well, the problem being that Harrison Ford's a little old to still be fighting Nazis. I get the choice to
Be
go
neo Nazis. He could
have been.
could have been chasing down like Martin Bormann and
It could really have been that it was just the
Mengele.
Soviets.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
the Soviets weren't a bad choice of.
yeah. It's true.
Here's the thing.
Stalin.
My opinion of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm going to say something that's going to be wildly unpopular with some of you. I think it's a good movie. I think it is for what it is. I mean, it's not a big high intellect movie, but for an action thriller in the classic serials format, which is basically what it's an homage to, I think it's a good movie. It's not a good part of the Indiana Jones mythos.
It kind of falls short in comparison to the other movies. I think.
Well, not
that's
just
the
that,
problem.
but the story itself just because it takes the entire concept of the Indiana Jones series, which is the power of the supernatural, the power of gods. Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's the power of the Judeo-Christian God. Temple of Doom, it's the power of the gods of India.
Hindu,
Last Crusade, it's the power of Christian God again. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's space aliens.
Yep. It's all
It
George Lucas's fault.
The gods are space aliens, and it completely twists the idea behind all of the other movies. Which is why, again, I think it's a good movie. I just don't think it fits well into the greater arc of the Indiana Jones universe.
Well, also, I think introducing a son to Indiana Jones, it could have maybe worked if it had been done better, but the character of Mutt Williams was just kind of useless. I mean, he was just there. He really added nothing to the movie when you
And we are
come down
so
to
far
it.
off topic. We're 10 minutes in and we haven't even talked about A Deal with the Devil.
Okay, how about this? If I could make a deal
Who did
with
George
the devil,
Lucas make a deal with to get that movie made?
if I could make a deal with the devil, I'd ask for the power to go and remake all of the bad movies in the world that I.
Let's start with
that
the
I
prequels.
dislike.
Thank you very much.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'd remake all of them.
We just take Jar Jar Binks out. That would massively increase the movies all by itself.
Oh, it
there are
would.
other changes to make.
It would, but
But that's a huge improvement right by.
I'd get better
Thousands of fans
screenwriters.
would thank you just for getting rid of Jar Jar Binks.
Well, there's that edit does exist
I know.
out there.
And it's supposed to be a much better edit.
It is. But yeah, I would just redo the movies entirely. I think the plots were kind of weak.
So, Deals with the Devil. Let's start
Deals with the devil.
the oldest deal we know of with the Judeo-Christian devil. Now, it's not the oldest deal with a devil-like figure. I mean, if you want to go back, you could almost argue that the deal that Orpheus makes to bring Eurydice back from the dead, well, and this is important to note, Hades, despite popular fiction, is not the devil in Greek mythology. He's actually one of the nicest Greek gods. It's like if you had to make a deal with a Greek god, Hades is a safe bet because he honors his word.
Yeah, they usually try to turn him into a bad guy.
Yeah.
Just because of the associations with, well, he must be the equivalent of the devil. No, he really wasn't.
But the general motif of this deal with this dark and shadowy figure, because the thing is, he wasn't an evil god. His name was considered unlucky.
Yeah.
He was only worshipped in like one or two places. There was kind of this dark mystique to him as the god of the dead. So that sort of fits. But the first one we know of in the Judeo-Christian sense would be a saint, in fact, as I mentioned before, which would be St Theophilus the Penitent, also known as St Theophilus of Adana. He died in 538 AD. So we're talking about pretty much he died right around the time that King Arthur supposedly was born. These are pretty old. This is an old story.
Yeah. There is one other story, though, called Bearskin that is apparently an old legend. That,
I think it's from Brothers Grimm, in fact. But then again,
yeah.
they were folklorists.
Yeah, they were telling a very old story.
There's something with that I want to get into, but first I want to get the basic story of Theophilus in. So Theophilus was an Archduke of Adana, Sicilia, apparently, which is part of what's now Turkey. He was elected to be the bishop by unanimous vote, but being a very humble man, he turned the position down, and somebody else was elected in place. Problem one is it was a rival of Theophilus. Problem two is he then strips Theophilus of his position as archdeacon, which made him regret to giving up the office in humility, and he sought out a necromancer to make a deal with the devil. He renounced Christ and the Virgin Mary. He signs a contract in his own blood, and he gets the position of bishop. Down the road, he realizes, I'm a freaking bishop of the Catholic Church, and I just sold my soul to Satan. What the heck am I doing?
Gotta question your career choices at that point.
And he spends 40 days praying to the Virgin Mary and fasting. At the end of the 40 days, the Virgin appears to him, chews him out, basically.
Slaps him around like
he
Ray
begs
Liotta.
forgiveness.
Like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas.
Yeah. She promises to go to intercede with God for him, and then 3 days later, he wakes up and the contract's on his chest. He takes it to the bishop, the person who was supposed to be bishop, confessed what he had done, burns the document, and he died of sheer joy to be free of the contract, apparently. There's other versions.
It's a cause of death you don't hear very often.
There's other versions of the story where it was out of jealousy, because supposedly the necromancer was a Jew. There's no magician, he just deals with the devil himself. He repents the day after he makes the deal. Mary appears immediately instead of taking 40 days. Yeah, there's, like all myths, there's a whole bunch of versions of it.
Yeah.
But that is the first. Now, there are a whole slew of stories in Brothers Grimm, like Bearskin, of people not necessarily the signed in blood contract we think of.
No, but they make some sort of an agreement.
If memory serves,
and try to get out of it.
With the story of Bearskin, he had to wear the skin of a bear for like 10 years, and then he got what he wanted, or something to that effect. And what I find interesting here is if you look at a lot of the stories of Brothers Grimm, if you look, and this is true of a lot of Christian myths, folklore about the devil, it's legit. While it is legitimate folklore, there's a lot of hints in it that it's not actually about the devil. Like, case in point, why would the devil want somebody to go around and basically spend 10 years never bathing and wearing a bear skin? He's about stealing souls. He's not about making people do stupid shit. So the argument a lot of folklorists make, and I think this is a case I would agree with them, is that this probably originally was a story about a fairy or a pagan god, some sort of trickster figure, and when Christian monks got a hold of it a few centuries down the line, they changed fairy to devil, and by the time it gets to Brothers Grimm, it's the man made a deal with the devil.
Yeah. Well, because if you think about it, a lot of the devil stories, the deal with the devil stories, bear a remarkable similarity to Greek stories about where you make some sort of a deal with one of the Olympian gods.
Oh, yes.
And then try to go back on it, or try to trick your way out of it, or you just get screwed like King Midas, things like that.
Which is really my biggest problem with the deal with the devil genre, is so many of the stories, they get out of the deal, which I don't have a problem with, because I'm a Christian, I believe in redemption. But they never repent of what they've done. They just go, oh God, they just go to the devil, challenge him to a game of poker, win the game of poker, and they get their soul back.
Well, yeah.
And from a theological standpoint, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Although that doesn't happen. I'm looking at the literature. That doesn't happen as often as we think. We just know those stories, but in a lot of them,
you get a lot of them.
The devil just wins, and the person just regrets
Well, the penultimate deal with the devil. I mean, Theophilus is pretty much the first, but the one that inspired most fiction is, of course, the story of Faust.
Yeah, Faust or Dr. Faustus.
And funny enough, there's two major versions of Faust and a billion reproductions.
Oh God, yeah.
One of which the one I've actually read is by Christopher Marlowe.
Yeah, that's the tragic history of Dr. Faustus, and then there's Faust by Goethe.
Yes, which is also extremely well known.
Yeah.
Marlowe's interesting, of course, because he was a contemporary of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Pretty much, we think of him the way we think of Shakespeare if there hadn't been a Shakespeare. He's that significant and important of an author.
Yeah, very good playwright.
Yeah, the tragical comedy history of Dr. Faust is a really good play.
Yeah.
I read it in college, specifically. But it's a story of a man who makes a deal with the devil. And in the Marlowe version, he gets women, he gets magical power, he gets wealth. 10 years the contract comes due, and he's dragged off to hell screaming for salvation. And in some versions of the story, he gets the salvation.
Yeah.
Actually, I think in the Marlowe version, he gets the salvation even.
Probably.
And this is kind of what I'm talking about, because it isn't like real remorse. It's the, oh crap, it's fire insurance. It's something I've heard Christians called fire insurance. It's believing in God just to get out of hell.
Yeah. Well, it's like what was it? What Morgan Freeman talked about it in the movie Seven, where he was talking about was it attrition, or not attrition? Something like that. It was basically, repenting of your sins, but not because you love God. It's because you're facing horrible torture or consequences or
exactly
something like that.
And it also makes me think of one of my favorite, more modern versions of the deal with the devil. If a man who's doing solves an unsolvable math problem and a demon appears.
Oh yeah,
and it's I'm going to steal your soul now because you solved the math problem.
Tales from the Dark Side.
Yes,
that was a really good one.
Yeah, they're talking about it, and it's actually based on a short story.
Yeah, most of the really good Twilight Zones
and Tales from the Dark
Side were based on some really good.
Stephen King did a couple of Tales from the Dark Side. Wrote specifically for the show, in fact.
Oh yeah, like The Cat from Hell.
Mm-hmm. Which was, Sorry, Right Number.
Yeah, that was a good one. But
Typewriter of the Gods.
But the original, I remember the original ones, the Rod Serling Twilight Zone. You had guys like Charles Beaumont, Richard Christian Matheson.
Well, for that matter,
some really good
Rod
writers.
Serling himself was a writer before he started. A lot of and Ray Bradbury.
Some very good stories in there.
But what happens in the story from Dark Side is, so the demon explains to him he can make one request. And if the demon can't fulfill the request, he gets his soul back. But it's like, just keep in mind, I know everything. I can go anywhere. I can do anything. Understand everything. And he goes, okay, I have my request. Get lost.
Get lost. Yeah. Didn't realize he can't get lost. Like
he's incapable of becoming lost. So
because he knows
the guy
everywhere.
gets the soul back.
Yeah. That was a good
I like that. There's also one of my favorite authors who we've talked about on the show before, who's now passed. C.J. Henderson did a really good story about a man who sells the soul to the devil. And what I liked about it, and what I'm kind of alluding to here, is it's an evil bastard who sells his soul, and he wants the contract back. And he acknowledges the fact that, I'm an evil bastard. At the end of the day, I'm still going to hell. But it's my soul, and I want it back. And it's something I think a lot of stories miss, is it's like, and I wrote a story myself I called I Beat Him, about a man who sells his soul, beats the devil in a contract, gets his contract back, and still winds up in hell. But it's like, it doesn't matter, I won.
Yeah.
I don't care, I'm damned, I won.
Still has bragging rights.
Yeah. As you're being tortured for all eternity, you can still brag.
Get the one satisfaction of...
But just to let in my version of the story, is what happened. The devil threw the game because... I already got your soul, man. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, there was a Twilight Zone episode with that where like the devil or a demon approaches this businessman, and the guy's like, "Well, I suppose you want my soul," and the demon looks at him and just goes, Oh, of course not. We've owned that outright for years. Like, you're already on your way to us. Yeah, we don't need to trick you into getting your soul. They wanted something else. They wanted like him to do certain things for them on Earth and whatnot. In return, he'd get this thing that he desired.
Which is another recurring thing we find a lot in more recent, especially it seems more recent as opposed to myths. Of it's like, for one reason or another, the devil will declare, "I don't care about your soul. It's not worth anything anymore. Souls aren't worth anything anymore. I'm getting them all anyway. Oh, your soul is already such a torn up, ragged thing. Why would I want that?"
Well, we live in a more ambiguous time when it comes to religion and whatnot. So in the earlier days, the value of a soul was undeniable, whereas now you want something that is a little more tangible, or you want to throw a twist into the story because it's been done so many times. You have to find, and I think that's really the appeal of the Deal with the Devil stories. It's the idea of a person matching wits against what is essentially a god, and you're trying to outlie the master of lies or trick the ultimate trickster. And I think that's the appeal, is to see how that game plays out, how the author feels.
Although, ladies and gentlemen, seriously, you're going to try and beat the devil in a contract dispute? Where do you think lawyers go when they die?
Exactly, yeah. He's got every lawyer ever working for him.
It's like, who do you think writes these contracts for him? It's all the lawyers.
So, yeah, read the fine print.
Or just don't sign the deal to begin with. You're better off. But, so we're coming up on the first half hour. We should talk about probably the most famous American version of the story.
Oh, yes. Well, there's
several, but there's the one legend.
Goodman Brown, and then there's
Devil and Daniel Webster.
Daniel Webster, where they took a apparently what's his name? Hang on, Sheridan Le Fanu wrote one called Sir Dominic's Bargain. So the guy who also did Carmilla, sort of almost invented the vampire genre. He's nice. One of the first. One of the early good ones, yeah. Okay. So the Devil and Daniel Webster was actually it was a story by Stephen Vincent Bennett, but it was based on Washington Irving's The Devil and Tom Walker. Mm-hmm. So again, I guess these were taking real people and putting them into. Yeah, Daniel Webster's a popular, famous lawyer and politician. Yeah, and the picture of Dorian Gray, although the devil doesn't appear, it's still the same sort of deal. It's essentially the idea that Dorian Gray sold his soul in return for the portrait and immortality. Yeah. And of course, there's the millions of Twilight Zone episodes. Oh yeah, too many. Another one of my favorites, the man who sells his soul for first season of the original. In fact, man sells his soul for eternal life, and the devil's like, "Yeah, no problem, no problem. There's one stipulation I have to make, which is if you want out, you can get out of it." And you're like, "Well, why would I want that?" Well, I don't know. It's legalese. So the guy proceeds to have an absolute blast doing things that should kill him and not dying. But he gets bored. And it's like, well, what am I going to do now? It's like, I know. I'll commit murder, go to trial, not defend myself, go to the electric chair and feel what it's like to be executed. So he kills his wife, goes to, freely admits, doesn't make any effort to defend himself, and it's the end of the trial, and his attorney looks at him and goes, "Look, you're in luck. I managed to cut a deal. You're getting life in prison instead of the death sentence." Yeah. And then the end of the episode is you just see the shadow of the devil and him nodding and then hanging himself. That was such a beautifully done episode. There are so many like that are just, really well done and dark and twisted. Ones where the guy thinks he got the best end of the bargain until, that final twist. Related to not a Deal with the Devil, another one of my favorite early episodes, The Other Place. Oh. You know the one? Probably have seen it, but I don't remember the name.
dies and goes to heaven, goes to what he assumes is heaven.
Huh.
And he's there with this guide who calls himself Pip. And it's great. He's got all the money he wants. He's got all the food he wants. He goes to the casino. He bets on, everything on 00 and he wins. He goes up to a cop and just beats him up and humiliates him. Gorgeous dames on his every arm, but then it's like, okay, I'm gonna rob a bank. Okay, when do you want to rob the bank? Okay, but and what kind of opposition do you want to face? Well, no, I don't want to know what kind of opposition. I want the challenge of it. It's like, okay, well, when do you want to get shot at? It's like, no, and everything's being planned and everything's absolutely perfect, and it's like, look, and he's getting bored. Of course, because everything is perfect and everything is exactly the way he wants. And he goes to Pip. It's like, you guys obviously made a mistake. I don't belong here. You send me to the other place. And Pip's like, what do you mean, sir? This is the other place.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is that the torment of hell isn't
giving you everything you think you want.
Let you have everything you want and watch it lose its appeal.
Yeah, especially no challenge, nothing to interest you, nothing to stimulate
Which
you.
is actually quite brilliant. And
it is.
One of the reasons why the old Twilight Zone stories were so good was the writing and the insight into human nature was so well done.
But there is a story we've got to tell before we open the lines up again and
Okay.
remind people of the phone number, which is one of the greatest musicians who ever lived.
Oh yeah,
and
Robert
Johnson. And this is a moment. It's like, I wish we were kind of on YouTube where we didn't have to worry about copyrights. Because if we could, I'd play Me and the Devil or Crossroad Blues right now. So, if you ask most,
or the devil went down to Georgia.
If you ask most the average person,
it's the best devil story.
True, but it's not Johnson. Johnson songs is the point.
It's funnier.
So for those of you who are scratching your head wondering who Robert Johnson is, if you ask the average guy in the street who the greatest guitarist of all time is, you'll probably get Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix. If you ask Jim Morrison, if you ask Jimi Hendrix, if you ask Eric Clapton who the greatest guitarist of all time was, they'll tell you Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
I want to say when Eric Clapton first heard one of his songs, he's like, "Who's the other guy singing?" Because he was so good with guitar, he could use it as a accompaniment to his singing. He could play so well it sounded like it was two guitars instead of one.
Wow.
And of course, these phenomenal. And here's the thing about Johnson, though. When he was starting out, when he was a young man in Mississippi, he was terrible. Like everyone who knew him at the time, and even his own admission, he was an absolute. Growing up, he wanted to be a blues player.
Yeah.
And up until the age 17, he was absolutely terrible. At 17, he goes away for a while, for a year. Mm-hmm. And he comes back, and he's this musical genius.
Hence the
he made a deal with the devil.
Deal with the devil thing, yeah.
And the story goes that
they have tours actually.
Yes.
Of these supposed crossroads where it happened.
Well, there's in fact at least two crossroads where it happened.
Yeah.
Because nobody's sure. But there's two crossroads in Mississippi where he supposedly went, and he met the story goes he meets the devil, who shows up as a black man with big lips, and the devil takes his guitar, tunes it for him, and hands it back, and that's how he gets this power. Now Johnson himself never outright said, yes, I made a deal with the devil. He played with the idea his whole life. I mean, if you listen to Crossroads Blues, Me and the Devil, and his other songs, it's laced with references.
It made him famous. The legend of that made him famous, whether it happened or not. I mean, how would you... Can't turn away that infamy, especially if you're in something like the music business.
And then when he's 27 years old, he's drinking in a juke joint. Or he's playing in a juke joint. And somebody hands him a bottle of rum. He turns it aside because he had a standing rule at the time, I think makes sense, which is, I don't drink from an open bottle. Because you don't know if somebody screwed with it.
Yeah.
But he's thirsty, his throat's dry, it's a hot day, somebody offers it to him again, and he drank from it. A little while later, he complains about pain, he complains about visions, particularly visions of a black dog, and then 2 days later, he's dead. Nobody's quite sure how he died. The general theory is that he was poisoned with cyanide, although cyanide has a very distinct almond flavor.
And it acts a lot quicker than that.
No, that part could be true. But the
Okay.
flavor, it's a very strong, very bitter flavor that the rum wouldn't have been able to conceal.
Yeah.
But the prevailing theory on how he died is basically there was a married woman he had been flirting with, or possibly more than flirting, and the husband killed him in a jealous rage.
Yeah.
There are 3 different tombstone markers for Robert Johnson. That's how sure people are of where he was buried.
Nice.
And of course, legend persists. And what's significant here, as you all may have noticed, he died at age 27. Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, what's his name? Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
A number of famous musicians died. And let's be clear, there's a whole thing they call the 27 Club, that a lot of famous musicians have died at age 27. There are a bunch of famous musicians who died at 27. It is not a statistically significant number.
No. It's like the theories about the Kennedys or whatever. It's like if you look at any extended
Well,
family.
here, of course, because Johnson is like the first one. The rumor is that all the people who've died at 27 made a deal with the devil, and that's why they're all dying at the same time.
The number 27.
And granted, there are a number of musicians, including several on that list, who had New Age interests, what you might call occult interests.
Yeah.
Use some of the elements in their songs.
The problem is there were also a lot of the people on that list that had serious drug habits. That
Yeah. The hard reality and depression issues.
Yeah.
And,
Kurt Cobain had like severe back issues that caused him a great deal of pain. There's a lot that goes into these stories that people don't
which ties
necessarily
into last
remember.
week's episode, really.
Yes. So there you go.
So, okay, we've now hit the half an hour mark, so I think it's time to give out the number now.
Yes, please call.
609-807-2492, 609-807-2492. You can call in and talk about deals with the devil. Do you know anyone who sold their soul? Have you sold your soul?
Would you like to sell your soul?
Are you looking to sell your soul, but it's really a buyer's market at the moment?
Yeah. We can talk.
We can talk. Low down payment. Easy credit terms.
Exactly.
And if you want to talk about something else, you can call in and ask about something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that we've talked about in the past.
Anything you want us to
shows.
talk about. We're not picky.
No, that's true. We have a list of like potential topics that we should eventually get to, but we'd love to hear from the audience and actually get people that want to hear about something.
Speaking of the devil, I was wondering where Beth was. I just thinking, hey, Beth's usually here by now.
Yes, I got here early, and apparently it's on the wrong page, so I've been thinking about that for the last 20 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a screw up I had made, but by the time we caught it, we'd already started. We couldn't fix it without completely shutting down and starting over again. But Gene did share it on my page, or on the proper page, so it should sort of be working.
It still doesn't show me on the main page.
Maybe afterwards.
Well, afterwards it'll be up on the YouTube and Breach and everything. So.
Yeah.
And we do. I can see we have at least a few people other than yourself who are signed in to listen.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, your YouTube page says that you're doing the conjuring.
I know.
Welcome to The Conjuring.
It's not easy to really edit that
Dun-dun,
and do the show, which is why it always says whatever it did the last time. I'll edit it tonight when I go and put in the. I usually will go and I'll put in the tags and then download it off of YouTube so I can upload it to Breach as well.
By the way, if the devil himself happens to be in the audience and is interested in my soul, I do have a number in mind. So if you want to give a call, we can talk. We can.
For that matter, I have not one but two souls, slightly used.
Slightly used.
I mean, the shoes are pretty new, so their souls are in pretty good shape.
There's that. That's the other version of selling your soul. It's a terrible pun.
I know, but I'm all about the bad puns. Or the fiendish puns. Let's call them fiendish puns.
Fiendish puns.
Be more
in honor of
thematically
tonight's,
appropriate. I guess the good Baron has not been able to get a chance to call in,
No, the Bloody Red Baron flies solo tonight.
which is okay. We'll drag his backside in. Maybe, hopefully next week he'll join us to talk to Dacre Stoker.
Yes.
But I'm trying to think other major. I mean, we hit the big deals with the devil.
Yeah. One of the other things there's some stories that I think are essentially sort of deals with the devil, but the devil doesn't actually appear, which we talked about, things like the bottle imp,
yes.
Robert Louis Stevenson, and the monkey's paw.
Oh, good Lord, yes.
I think it's kind of a classic deal with the devil's story, just without the devil.
Well, all of those types, I mean, there's definitely an element of deal with the devil to all of the genie stories where the genie screws you over.
Yeah. Well, because the Djinn were the original devils.
Well, they weren't the original, but they were devil.
They were devils in their culture.
I was just talking to somebody about this literally yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Djinn are complicated. So it relates. Let me explain the Djinn.
Let's talk about the Djinn.
So Djinn, there are three
and the tonic
categories of intelligent being that were created by Allah, the God of Islam. Well, and for that matter, just God, because for the record, folks, if anyone doesn't understand this, let me clarify. The Arabic word for God is Allah. Christian Arabs also call him Allah. Call God Allah.
Right. So that's really
it basically means the God.
Yeah, they're not saying anything different.
It's not some pagan moon god. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you take your issues with Islam as you will, and there's certainly problems with Sharia law and things of that nature, but they're not worship. They're not. They're just saying God, linguistically speaking. Yeah. So, at any rate, he creates angels, which are just created to be his servants. They are not given free will. He creates Djinn out of smoke, out of fire, and the Djinn are actually given free will. And then he creates man out of clay, Adam specifically, because again they pretty much take everything out of the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And they give man free will, but man is created in God's image. Man is the greatest of the three creations. He then demands the angels and the Djinn bow to man. Some of the Djinn do. All the angels do, because again they don't have free will. Some of the Djinn do. Some of the Djinn refuse. The Djinn who refuse are the Arabic analog of demons.
So it is essentially the Lucifer story, just without Lucifer and with
the
twist that the
leader of the rebel Djinn is actually called Shaitan.
Okay, yeah, Shaitan.
Yeah, Iblis or Shaitan. The difference is that Djinn in general are not inherently evil, and it's not like Lucifer in one important respect. Djinn in Islam are not enemies of God. They're not rebelling against God, because it's essentially seen as impossible. They just refuse to acknowledge man. And even some of the darker Djinn aren't always inherently evil. They just don't like humans especially much.
Right, so they like to mess with us.
Yeah. Where the whole bottle thing comes from, it is another tie-in point between Judaism and Islam.
Yeah. Isn't that like just pretty much the one story?
No, there's a couple of stories.
Okay, because I thought it all pretty much went back to the Arabian Nights.
Yes, but the Arabian Nights is a collection of Islamic folklore.
Right.
It's not one story. It's
so there's like more than one genie and a Djinn in a bottle.
There's just in Arabian Nights. There's several Djinn, and there's the Djinn of the lamp in Aladdin. There's the Djinn of the ring in Aladdin. Oh. There's a Djinn associated with the bottle, and my favorite Arabian Night, which is the Djinn and the fisherman. The one where they're basically I'll get to that story in a minute because I want to finish the thought before I jump to something else.
Sure.
But the train of thought is what it is King Solomon, the wisest king from Judaism in the Bible, in Jewish folklore had authority over demons that was given to him by God. In Islamic folklore, it's authority over Djinn. The Djinn that wouldn't obey him, he placed in bottles and then sealed with the seal of Solomon. That's why this seal, the seal was. So in Jewish and Islamic tradition, Solomon's given 3 gifts. He asks God for wisdom. He's given 3 gifts. He's given a book of magic, which goes by the various names: the seal of the Key of Solomon or the Testament of Solomon. which is it's not just a book of summoning demons. It's a complete knowledge of good and evil, summoning demons and angels, and all sorts of magical workings. The Tetragrammatron, which is by far the most powerful of the three gifts. If you don't know, the Tetragrammatron is basically the proper spelling of the name YHWH. It is the true name of God. And the last gift is a ring known as the Seal of Solomon, which has a Star of David on it and has a Tetragrammatron inscribed across it. So that seal, that mark, seals the bottle shut so the Djinn cannot escape because they have to get around the literal name of God.
Okay.
Which gets into a whole series of other things. There's also a belief that God created the entire universe simply by speaking his own name, and he can unmake the universe by speaking it backwards. And also, in Judaism, it's YHWH. You'll sometimes see today G-D instead of spelling out G-O-D, out of respect for the fact you don't use the name of God casually, which goes into the second commandment. Now, the story of the fisherman and the Djinn. So, fisherman is out casting his nets. And he has a personal rule. He only ever throws his net 3 times in a day. Throws up the nets the first time. Starts pulling them back. And he's struggling because they're really heavy. And he thinks he's hit the jackpot. And it's rocks. He's frustrated. He throws it back. Pulls it back. Again, really heavy load. But it's mud. And he's angry and he's frustrated. And he's like, maybe I should break my rule. If I don't have any luck this time, I'm not going to catch anything for the day. What am I going to eat? It's like, nope. I'll do it. He says a prayer to Allah. He throws the nets a third time. More rocks, but a bottle. And he notices something that looks like a liquid or maybe a dark smoke in the neck of the bottle. He's like, well, maybe it's some alcohol. Maybe it'll be worth something. Or at the very least, we may get drunk. Well, then again, he's Muslim. He wouldn't have drunk.
Yeah.
But he pops the seal to try and find out what's in there. And great smoke issues out, and it's a Djinn. It's like, thank you for freeing me, and as a reward for freeing me from the lamp, I offer you your choice of ways to die. And he goes, what? You're supposed to offer me riches, great wealth, wishes. You're supposed to be my servant at my command. Well, for the first 100 years that I sat in that lamp, I thought, whoever frees me, I will give all the riches of the world. He will be the greatest of kings. For the next 100 years, I decided I would grant the greatest, any desire the person had. And goes on like this, and then eventually he just decided. Then finally I decided I would give the choice of the ways of death for whoever gets me out, because it took them so bloody long. I mean, he spent 1,000 years in that bloody bottle. And so the man goes, if it is Allah's will I die, I accept it. But as a dying request, I have a simple question, great Djinn. Well, I suppose you are a dying man, last request and all of that. What is your request? So you came out of that bottle. Yes, I did. Really? You're so huge. How did you can't possibly fit in that bottle. You've got to be fooling me. No, I assure you, I came from the bottle. No. I don't believe it. The smoke came out of the bottle and you appeared then. You didn't actually come from the bottle.
You guys see where this is going.
I was like, I will prove it. The Djinn goes back into the bottle, and the fisherman, being a smart man, stuffs the seal back on the bottle. In the Arabian Night version of it, he's going to do the logical thing and throw it the frack back into the ocean. The Djinn's like, wait. No, don't do that. If you release me, I will be good on my promise this time. Consider, and then the Djinn tells a story. And then the fisherman's like, yes, but it would be foolish of me to release you, because consider this story. And they go, like everything else in Arabian Nights, it's about 6 stories back and forth. And ultimately, the fisherman releases him, and he takes him to this pond, and he finds these 3 magical fishes, and it goes on from there. Yeah. In my preferred version of the story, the fisherman goes, heck with that noise, and throws it back in the ocean.
Simple and done.
Yeah. But it is by far my favorite story, and that's the thing about Djinn. If you want to understand Islamic folklore on Djinn, read Arabian Nights. The thing, again, much like people think of Brothers Grimm as a collection of children's stories.
Yeah.
Arabian Nights is not. I mean, you can argue it's a work of fiction in the fact that what happened probably it's not 100% true accounts.
Well, also
but it's a book of folklore.
A lot of people have read the translation.
Yeah.
Which, like Richard Burton, much like he did to the Vikram and the Vampire stories, he kind of created his own very loose interpretation of the original. So if you want to read them, go back and read a translation of the original. You know, don't take the
Djinn and Sax and
Americanized version.
Well, there's the one British one that's usually pretty well respected. I'm trying to think of the guy's name.
That's the Sir Richard Burton.
Really?
He's the one that introduced...
I thought his was thought... No, then I must be thinking of another one. There's another one who's more well thought of.
Oh, maybe a more recent one, but his was the first one.
Yeah.
I think.
Interestingly enough, this also ties into a topic I've been meaning to mention that I doubt it, unless we got like a guess, and I can think of a couple of them. It's not really a topic in of itself, which is the Necronomicon.
Ah, yes.
Which is supposedly the Book of Ultimate Black Magic. The short version is, no, it's not. It's a work of fiction invented by a writer by the name of H.P. Lovecraft. Interestingly enough, while the Necronomicon doesn't exist, it is based on a piece of folklore, of Islamic folklore.
Uh-huh.
What?
I've got a great story for that in real time, though.
But there are a couple of books that supposedly that Muslims believe exist, or at least Muslim folklore says exist, that are the writings of genies. Or they're not. They're not the writing of genies. They're the writing of the whisperings that people have heard of Djinn. And if you go back to some of the earlier stuff Lovecraft wrote about the Necronomicon, it is supposed to be basically a transcription of the whispering of the Djinn.
Yeah.
Because it was written by Abdullah al-Razed, the Mad Arab. So, yes, there are actually books out there that are supposedly the mad scribblings. Scribblings based on the writing of the spoken words of these Djinn. They're heard in the night in the desert. And there's...
Klaatu Verata Necktie.
Definitely an N-word. Okay, we all agree I've said the words.
Yeah, I basically said the words.
Why is the cemetery rising up?
Exactly.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, you should be ashamed of yourself. Go watch Army of Darkness.
Yeah, really.
Entire trilogy, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but if you had to pick one, go with Army of Darkness, I think.
Army is my favorite of the three.
I think it's the most fun.
So if you're still
Dead 2
confused,
is also very good.
the three movies are Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2 is basically a remake of Evil Dead 1.
And expounds upon it.
More or less, yeah. It's pretty much a better version with better special effects.
Yeah. And it's much more... The first one was actually deliberately trying to be a slasher flick. The second one was embracing the cheese and just being funny.
Yeah, the first one, it was done... I mean, it was a college movie. It was a bunch of film
It literally
students
is. It was
with his
funded by
friends.
dentists, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because when Sam Raimi first wanted to do the movie, he was looking for investors, like you do.
Yep.
And he found a group of investors that invested in to invest in horror movies, like independent and horror movies and things like that. And I remember, funny enough, the guy who connected him, the dentist, was like, "Oh, I'm part of this investment group." It's like, "No, I don't want to know. I don't want to see the movie. I don't want to talk about what the movie's about. I hate those kinds of movies. I just like investing in them."
Nice. Well, it's like Baptists funded Plan 9 from outer space. Thinking that they were going to get this great return on the investment and they could do these movies about the 12 apostles. Sadly, that never came to pass. They got They got one really crappy movie, and that was it.
As a Christian, why is that a bad thing? Because let's face it,
it's just funny.
The list of good Christian movies is short.
Yeah, they probably would have been awful.
In fairness, there are some good ones. There are some good ones. The Oh God trilogy are three great movies with George Burns as God.
Very, very true.
And my personal favorite, the last one, George Burns both as God and Satan.
I think that was one of his best performances.
Oh yeah, no question.
I mean, he got to really chew both roles.
The more recent version of Left Behind was an okay movie. It wasn't as bad as most Christian movies. I'll put it like that. It wasn't, not that it was a great movie. And part of why what salvages it as a movie is just Nicolas Cage is funny and everything.
The cheesiness of Nicolas Cage.
And then there's the Apocalypse series, which has some decent moments, but tends cheesy. There's just so many bad Christian movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I generally don't watch them.
I do, and it's just sad to look at it and go, you had a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
You had something that, there's one
there's so many B movies like that.
called Deceived, which is a neat idea where they're, basically they get the first signal from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
And what ultimately they find out is it's not actually from outer space, it's from hell.
Of course.
And two, it's driving people insane. But it's done by very conservative Christians. So where that could actually make a good horror movie. I could see this, say, and this is an older movie, so it's not as common as it's already become. But this signal that everybody thinks is from outer space, and ultimately the twist is it's from hell, is driving people into this murderous frenzy. You can turn it into a 28 Days Later situation where they're becoming rage zombies and brutally killing people or something like that.
Or the crazies. I mean, there's been so many variations on that sort of idea.
But of course, they can't be that violent because it's a hyper-conservative Christian movie. Or there's the one that just came out.
So what do they all do? Do they just sit around and blasphemy quietly?
There's some violence, but it's a little more suggested than overt. And
Of course.
even then, it's a little over. It's a little handmaliciously over the top. Or there's the other movie that just came out. It's like, this could have been interesting, and you screwed it up. Genesis 3D Paradise Lost, which part of the movie, which could be good, could be at least interesting,
Genesis in 3D.
Well, 3D animation
Okay.
of the story of Genesis.
Okay.
It's like, a good quality Genesis 3D, the Garden of Eden, the serpent, maybe the flood.
You'll believe that serpent's coming right at you.
I could see that being at least maybe a good movie, but at least enjoyable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one, the 3D animation is well below subpar, and two, they keep interrupting the part that might actually be interesting to have a bunch of young Earth creationists explain why science is wrong.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
It's like, man, you had an idea that might have worked.
All they
Thing.
needed was to bring in Kirk Cameron, and they could have had the trifecta of awful.
I think they brought in Ray Comfort,
Oh.
which is, if you don't know, is Ray Cameron's main partner in ministry and equally ridiculous.
Oh,
I'll put it like this. Have you ever heard the banana argument for the existence of God?
no.
Okay, this is bizarre enough, and this is a real simple explanation of why creationists are silly people. So Ray Comfort is a minister who has Living Waters Ministry, Way of the Master, who explains that the atheist's worst nightmare, the proof of an intelligent designer, is the banana. Because the banana fits perfectly in your hand. You have 3 grooves on one side, 2 grooves on the other, just like your hand. It's got a convenient pull tab at the top. It's nice and it's sweet flavored and very enjoyable. It fits perfectly in your mouth. It's obviously perfectly designed for human beings. And
Except,
in fairness, he's right. It is designed, very nicely designed for human beings.
But-
We're the ones who designed it.
exactly, the Cavendish.
Breeding, everybody.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Cavendish banana was created by a lot of selective breeding.
The
Also, it wasn't the banana we originally had. We used to have a
that
banana
doesn't
called,
exist anymore.
Yeah, it used to be called Big Mike, and it was a very different, rounder,
And
sweeter
sweeter,
banana. And
Which is
that
why
was
banana
destroyed.
flavoring tastes so much different than bananas.
Yes.
It's based on the originals.
Yep.
But it was destroyed, and the Cavendish, the one that we know, aside from being generations of genetic tampering, it's basically a genetic modified organism.
Yeah, and even then, there are
And it's
still,
a clone at that.
there are hundreds of other types of bananas
Yeah.
around the world. We don't.
Yeah.
There's not just
Not to
one
mention,
banana.
wild bananas don't remotely resemble what you get in the grocery store.
No, they've got seeds for one thing. A lot
They're
of times
they're not nearly. They're covered in the banana. You unwrap it. It's covered in seeds.
Yep.
It's not as nearly as sweet.
Yeah.
It's much sourer.
No, it took a long way to get
Yeah.
the banana to the way we
It's like,
think of it
yes,
now.
it's intelligent design. Humans designed it.
Yep. Yeah, do a little research before you go.
And
making a claim
needless
like
to
that.
say, Comfort got a lot of flack for that one. He was a laughing stock for that.
as he should.
And then he turned around and went, "Oh well, it was hyperbole. It was a joke." And it's like, no, I've seen the video of you saying it. It's very clear you're dead serious.
Yeah.
Well, then again, this is also the partner of Kirk Cameron, who has the crocoduck. Well, there's the brilliant thing about the crocoduck. So, again, if anyone doesn't know, the crocoduck is, again, atheist's worst nightmare because it doesn't exist. It is a exact 50-50 crossbreed of a crocodile and a duck, which is the missing link that evolutionists, which is what creationists always call them, have been looking for hundreds of years. No, it's not. It's like, no, that we're
Pretty sure they've got an explanation for
one,
that.
they've got a few thousand transitional fossils. Two, ducks are not directly descended from crocodiles in that way. And three, even if they were, that isn't how it works.
Yeah, no, crocodiles go back virtually unchanged for millions of years.
Yep, and they're still pretty much unchanged.
They're one of the best designed animals out there.
Yep.
It's like them and sharks are just
Great white shark,
awesome.
main change it's gone through in the last few million years is it got smaller.
Yeah, got a little smaller. It's no longer...
Actually, quite a lot. More than a little
size.
smaller. I mean, Megalodon got up to about 65 feet.
Yeah.
Whites today are about 20.
Although some people have... I've heard some researchers say that the Megalodon actually bore more resemblance to the mako shark than the great white. It was just huge in size.
Well, the white is vastly larger than Makos.
Oh, now it is.
Yeah.
But they're saying that the
Well,
Megalodon
the point
was
being
actually
it's a
more
bloody
of
huge shark.
It was, whale-sized shark.
And well, that was its problem. That's why the sharks have gotten smaller is that their prey supply has gotten small. The bigger fish are gone.
Yep.
There's not enough food out there for them to survive on.
But anyway.
Okay,
so
we're just about at the end of the show.
You know what else is serious? Internet security.
Yes. So, folks, internet security is a big deal these days.
That was a transition, huh?
If you don't know that it's serious, where have you been? What cave have you just crawled out of?
Oh yeah, no matter what side you're on, libertarian or government,
even setting
there's
aside
still
the
issues
government
with
watching you. There are still hackers, and
that's what I mean. No matter which way you look at the issue, having
and Big
some
Brother
way
is
of protecting
watching.
yourself is a good idea.
So what can you do about it? There's good news. There are what's called virtual private networks. Basically, to simplify it, because I'm not a tech geek guy, a virtual private network is you sign into a server offered by the company, and then from there you connect to the internet. So anyone who's trying to trace you, anyone who's trying to trace you back will trace your IP to the server that you signed into instead of your home computer,
which has much better security
basic
than you
privacy.
have.
On top of that, your communication to the virtual private network is protected by double military encryption. Your connection from there to wherever you're going on the internet is military-grade encryption. So you're doubly encrypted for if you're buying something online, so protecting your credit card information. Yeah. So this has a bunch of benefits, one of which is security. Your information is safe. The government cannot really spy on what you're doing. And this also leads to a lot of virtual private networks save your information for up to a month.
Yeah.
NordVPN, which is the one that we're specifically talking about, and is a sponsor of this show, does not save the information. So one, the information isn't there, and two, they're based in Panama, so they're not under U.S. jurisdiction for search warrants and things like that.
Yeah.
Which are both huge advantages. The other advantage this gives you is, so if you're living in China or some other country that has ridiculous...
Middle East, one of those places.
Places that won't let you visit half of the websites the rest of the world goes to. Yeah, we're wrapping up. Yeah.
We're almost done.
You can go on to NordVPN. You can choose which country you sign into from. So you can sign in from, if you're living in China, you can sign in from the U.S. and you're going to completely ignore all those blocks on what you can normally see. They're a great company. You can go to the link that'll be in the description and in the pinned comment to sign up. You'll help out the show if you do so. And it's a great service. It's on the pricey side as VPNs go, admittedly, but it's worth it. There's over 4,000 servers to connect to, and you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. I'm using it myself. It's wonderful. Please check that out. Please consider as well Kickstarter. Look up Paranormal Encyclopedia. Link in the description. Help us out. That's going to be going for 30 days, so you're going to hear us talk about it a lot. That's going to do it for tonight. Remember to tune in next week where we're going to have Dacre Stoker on. And sometimes keep an eye on the Facebook. Lupus and I will be doing the review of The Conjuring sometime soon. So keep an eye out for that. But that's going to do it for tonight. This is Kevin Mears.
And Brian McKinley.
We're saying good night and God bless.
And live long and prosper.